Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are live now with FC2 Up and Coming, episode 109. And joining with me tonight is Current TV. No dog tonight. He's busy doing schoolwork or something real life like that. But it's alright. We've got Current with us. How you doing tonight, bud?
I'm not too bad. Not too bad.
Good.
How about yourself?
Tired. But I think a lot of people are with Blizzcon over the weekend. Whether they went to it or watched it and all that stuff. Even if it's just like a 3-hour difference with the time zone, even like, you know, staying up late watching some of the stuff can take its toll on you, I'd say.
Especially with some delays and things, stretching stuff out a few days.
Yeah, this seems to be a regular occurrence with BlizzCon, is the outcries for LAN become much more vocal at BlizzCon, because there's
I think
always
they're just doing
issues.
it to see how loud we get.
I think, yeah, that must be what it is. Because I don't know what it is, but maybe it's because they have so much crazy stuff happening all at once. It does become a little bit taxing and overwhelming to their system. I don't know. It's a convention center. What could you expect? That's never going to change. So yeah, that's really the main thing that's going to be coming up tonight. BlizzCon. What happened at BlizzCon? WCS is over for 2014. It's official. We've got our champion, and sadly we cannot talk to Dulk about his opinion on the champion. We'll have to get his opinion next week about that. But sure, if you guys are regular watchers of the show, you know all about that. But we're also going to be talking Legacy of the Void, because that was announced. I think a lot of us were speculating that was going to be the case, that we were going to be seeing some stuff. Like, I remember when they announced stuff for Her the Swarm at BlizzCon, and some of the silly units that never made it in, like the Replicant and fun stuff like that. So there's a lot of thoughts on the new units, and we'll get into it in more detail when we actually jump into that, because there's a couple videos that I wanted to show you guys if for whatever reason you were AFK all weekend and missed out on all the videos and haven't had a chance to catch up. We've got the trailer for you guys. We've got the breakdown, basically basic breakdown of the new stuff for the units. And
Man just wants to watch this all again.
That's really what it is. I just want to watch it because I'm so happy for the fact that lurkers are back. I'm just gonna say that now. I'm so happy that lurkers are back. But a couple of the guys in the chat are talking about Warhounds. Yeah, Warhounds are silly. I remember all the Terran players so happy about how OP they were when they were in beta, and just like seeing statistics of people's win conditions using Warhounds compared to not using Warhounds, and that changes. And there is a fun Warhound-esque unit called the Cyclone that we'll talk about. It
did quite well in the show matches.
Yes, it's a very strong unit, and a lot of people are like, you know what would be great if we got a Phoenix and we put it on the ground and gave it the range of a siege tank. Like, yes, this is what we need to do, guys. I don't know. I don't design units, so
it's alpha, so everything's meant to be a little OP.
Exactly, everything is subject
that people
to
try them out.
Just like the people are talking about in the chat, like Warhound, Replicant, all this stuff that they're like, oh, look at this cool stuff, might not be making it to the game, and if it does, it could be very different from what we are seeing now. So we're gonna talk a little bit about it, but before we get into the videos themselves, if you're turning in for the first time or haven't tuned in a while, what this show is, of course, it's SC2 Up and Coming. Regular hosts we've got here, Curran, myself, Master Dulk joins us all the time as well. And his gaze into nothingness is freaking people out, but that does happen. Now, what we talk about is the up-and-coming scene. So we focus on, you know, some of those up-and-coming teams out there, qualifiers, tournaments, that sort of stuff, as well as sort of the regular tournament circuit. WCS being the main tournament circuit of the year. That's one of our main focuses, week in, week out. But it's all over now for 2014. There's still a couple tournaments, and we're going to actually talk a little bit about that. Copa America is coming up. Home Story Cup is coming up. IEM, they're still doing the qualifiers. So there's still a few more to end the year with before we go into that little downtime before 2015 kicks off there. So that's really what SC2 is all about. And our first topic, of course, is Legacy of the Void. So let's actually slide over and we can talk a little bit about the first video since we've got the trailer. And we've got a couple like 2-minute videos here, 3-minute videos and stuff, but I figure start it off right.
Was foretold, and the Protoss rose to fight them.
The invasion fleet stands ready. We await only your command, Hierarch.
Today, we will reclaim our homeworld. Now, the Zelnaga that forged us all are returning.
The galaxy will burn with their coming. Fitting that we should face oblivion together.
Amon whispered of this from the stars. He told you of ruin, extinction, end of all things.
So, Kern, I don't know. Have you played the campaign?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So you're familiar with the storyline and everything like that and stuff. I don't want to give any spoilers for the campaign itself because I know there's some people that like to just play it out and not worry about getting spoilers ahead of time because there was a whole panel and stuff like that. There's threads on TL kind of breaking down some of the more in-depth stuff that you're going to experience in the campaign, but I did just want to mention the fact that this is pretty much the wrap-up of the StarCraft storyline. That's what their plan is for Legacy of the Void. It's going to be a standalone game. So if you do not have Wings of Liberty, you do not have Heart of the Swarm, you can still be able to play Legacy of the Void just by purchasing it itself. So the conclusion
Which is
of the story.
such a smart choice. But
I heard some complaints like, oh, that means it's going to be like another $60 game instead of like a $40 game, which is possible, but I mean, it's going to be like a standalone game though. Like I don't know. you can't
if it
have
was
it
an
both ways.
expansion, then technically it would be like, well, you know, Wings of Liberty isn't 60 anymore. Let's say 40, 40, and 40.
Yeah,
that's an expensive game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's better to just have the 60 for new people trying to get in.
Yeah, and some
I'm
people,
with the doctor here in the chat.
Yeah.
I'd pay $100 for what Void's looking like.
right? Well, that I've spent the money on collector edition for each StarCraft, so I'm just like, yes, bring it on. Give me all the goodies, all the DVDs, all the art books. I want it all. So
see, this might be the one I do it for because as a Protoss player,
yeah, you've got it.
I'm assuming there'll be an extra skin,
Oh,
maybe a
of course.
carrier skin. You know,
Oh, yeah, that would be pretty. That would be sweet. So actually, before we get into the cool Protoss and Terra new units, why don't we get to the OP ones? Talk about what some of the changes to Terran. And so there's that little video that they put out. Of course, this is, if you guys were watching WCS over the weekend, this is one of the videos that they've been playing throughout their stream, I guess. During the WCS stuff, they were popping it up and stuff. So it's just like a 4-minute clip for you guys if you missed it, but we'll throw it up now for you.
Hello and welcome to a multiplayer update for Legacy of the Void. In this video, we will be discussing both new additions and changes coming to the Terran race with the final installment of the StarCraft II trilogy. First up, let me introduce you to the Herc. This barracks unit is anxious for a head-on fight. The Herc comes equipped with the ability to grapple onto targets at range and get up close and personal. Able to one-shot banelings while dishing out small radius splash damage, the Herc is particularly adept against the Zergling baneling composition. Keep in mind, though, that the Herc is unable to attack air and will have difficulty against larger Zerg ground units. Against Protoss, Hercs are particularly strong due to their high health and light armor. Nothing makes them happier than to jump in and break up a Protoss army. But it only takes a few well-placed zealots to deal with the Herc squad, so prepare yourself to counter appropriately. Up next, meet the Cyclone. This gal has a one-track mind, able to focus down units at range by targeting opponents one at a time, locking onto them, and dealing damage on the move. The Cyclone moves at the same speed as Stalkers, making them a solid choice for establishing early map control while picking off priority targets in the process. If you intend to counter the Cyclone, initiating combat swiftly and in force will work to your advantage. Moral of the story, if you're slow and big, you're gonna lose against the Cyclone. However, there are always opportunities to counter the Cyclone's mobility. Alright, let's talk about changes coming to current units in the Terran roster, starting with the Siege Tank. You can now pick up and drop tanks while they're in siege mode. We dig the idea of creating opportunities to harass with the siege tank that weren't previously possible. In general, we think providing more opportunities to control your army in masterful ways is an exciting way to push StarCraft II. And now the big boy, the Thor. Thors will now be capable of self-repair. It's a pretty simple change. Use emergency repair to heal after combat, and you can bring the unit back up to full. The only drawback is that repairing a unit will prevent it from both attacking and moving. There is a whole world of creative combat options when Thors travel in groups and rotate opportunities to repair. Banshees are another unit getting some attention with Legacy. We're interested in providing more opportunities to micro Banshees against ground units. So, we're implementing a speed upgrade available once you've built a fusion core. After acquiring the speed upgrade, Banshees will be capable of outrunning mobile detection units, even an upgraded Overseer or Observer. This makes the Banshee much better at surviving counter pressure that can come against harassment attempts. Alright, last but not least, let's talk battle cruisers. These iconic capital ships can now teleport anywhere on the map without vision. Keep in mind, though, that using this ability will cost a lot of energy, so choosing when and where to move is incredibly important. Clearly, there are opportunities where this call makes great sense, and when help is needed, you can get there almost instantly. That wraps up our summary of design changes coming to the Terran race with Legacy of the Void. Keep in mind that everything is subject to change as we move into public testing. That being said, we hope you're as excited as we are to share in a new experience of StarCraft that will be more fast-paced than ever before. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out the changes coming to the Zerg and Protoss armies as well.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some of the changes. Do you want to talk new units or changes first?
I'm down with whatever.
Okay. Then let's do new units. The Herc and the Cyclone. A lot of people have already expressed their thoughts on the Cyclone. I mentioned a little bit that it's can attack while moving, and it's got more range than a siege tank. Crazy DPS, pretty strong. Some might say. You watched the show matches, and you were saying that the Cyclone was kind of dominating.
A little bit, you could say. One Cyclone was something you really had to worry about. Just one showing up, kind of early even, was a big hassle. I forget who it was playing the Protoss on the second day, but they just got destroyed by him.
Yeah.
It was not even pretty to watch. They couldn't even, get a disruptor out if they wanted to.
Right.
So I think it's a good concept of a unit. I think it just needs a lot of very large number tweaks.
Mm-hmm.
To things
I mean,
like
it's as
range,
fast as a
damage.
stalker too. So like,
Yeah.
it is quick.
And they were saying Zerglings are like one of the really good counters to it, but like when we saw them versus Protoss, Protoss doesn't have Zerglings.
Yeah.
So you're kind of
Doesn't
like,
quite work. Okay. I
just
know.
hope you get blink fast, I
Right.
guess.
I
you
know a lot of, or I don't want to say a lot of. I know a couple of Protoss players in particular were saying they were hoping to see another gateway unit.
Yeah, I saw Puck tweeting about that actually just before the show.
Yeah. So maybe that's something that, because we'll talk a little bit more about Protoss when it gets to there, but they only revealed basically one new unit for them, and
they did say that one is on the way.
Right. Every race is pretty much going to get 2 new units, and they're going to be doing some changes to all the races there. The Herc, though, I think that's an amazing concept.
I really like it.
Having this early micro ability there, can't attack up, only attacks ground units there. Very effective in a lot of different situations. You can grapple onto stuff, launch your guy around and stuff, which is really, really cool to see.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw in the show matches, someone built a few Hercs, and then they built a Reaper, used the Reaper to jump into the main, and then
grappling. Oh, that's so cool. See, look at this, like these super exciting stuff that you can do, like these early micro stuff. I like that. So I'm happy with the Herc. I haven't seen really how much damage it can do, but the concept of it, I think, is great to have that another early harassment, very micro oriented unit available.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, going back to the Cyclone, I heard some people's thoughts about maybe making it more like the Vulture was in Brood War, to kind of make it a little bit more interactive instead of just like, oh, I've got this. I don't have to do anything with this now. I just move, and as I stay in this giant siege tank circle, I'm going to be dealing damage, kind of thing. But making it a little bit more interactive, so there's areas for players to interact with it a little bit more, maybe have some mistakes if the player is not on their game, kind of thing. But I don't know what else they could do with it to do some changes.
Maybe try and make like the attack that it has now into some sort of ability, maybe. But yeah, I think it's going to need, well, they could stick with kind of the basic Phoenix of the ground concept. I think it will need major number tweaks just to tone it down, because it's just so over the top. It's like a Tempest with 22 range,
Yeah, gosh. Yeah, so there's some interesting stuff there. I'm a little bit hesitant with the siege mode tank drops, especially in the TVT matchup in particular, where on some of the maps where you're just like, all right, we're kind of stalemated for a while, I'm going to doom drop you. And you hop into their main base, start locking down their production, kind of thing. We already see players starting to get a little bit better about defending that, having tanks siege up in their main base to kind of prepare against it. But like, if you're immediately going, boom, here's some siege tanks already in siege mode, drop down, it just pushes that attack to the next level. And so I love the idea of switching it up against the other races, but I'm a little bit nervous how that's going to do in the TVT matchup in particular.
If it'll be reminiscent of Hellbat versus Hellbat drop.
Yeah, like how strong is
some
it
of the micro that we saw from it was a little similar to that, kind of jotting around with it, moving, picking up the siege tank, chasing the worker type things, which I will admit is fun to watch.
Right. It is cool, and at least with the tanks, like you get one tank per medevac too. You know, maybe that's
changes the size, which I thought was a good kind of way to help balance it. I think maybe if there was slight more delay on the initial attack, on that first attack after dropping,
maybe that
might help. But
yeah,
we'll see.
And I think this is just like a minor little thing. Who knows how it's going to adjust it? But I like the idea.
I remember when we all thought that medevac speed boost would just make the game terrible.
Right?
It's going to ruin it.
Afterburners, what were they thinking?
It turned out fine. Everyone deals with it now. So who knows?
What did you think of some of the other ones? Battle cruisers, Thor.
I was gonna say, yeah. Battle cruiser and Thor, I think, were really good because both of the units seem to have trouble finding their perfect place and finding abilities that are really useful. So I like the idea of helping the battle cruisers be able to escape, not losing that investment.
Right, because they are expensive. I mean, the only time that you ever really see battle cruisers now is kind of in that mech stage, and usually TVT. And that's really the only time that you'll ever see players play with battle cruisers. But, like, you don't even have to have vision to send them.
I'm pretty sure you have to have vision of the area.
Do you? Or maybe, yeah, so, whatever it is, but you can
scan.
You can scan and go anywhere on the map, essentially. So, yeah, I guess the vision's not really that big of a deal for it. But, like, I love the concept of it, because it's such a late game and such a heavy investment that to have a more interaction with the map with it and be able to go a little bit further out and be like, because we're gonna hopefully have a lot more bases.
Yeah,
you're going to have to expand a lot more.
Cybert says you don't need vision.
Okay, cool.
He's probably talked to Ravi about it too. So.
Yes, that's true.
Ravi, I'm pretty sure, got his hands on it at BlizzCon.
Probably got some run-ins with it.
I can hear the jealousy in your voice right now.
No, there's no jealousy. I wish I could go to BlizzCon one of these days. But it's across the country, and I don't know, monies and stuff. That'll happen there. But no, I like the changes. I think the Thor change is a great change. I think the Battlecruiser is a great change. We'll see how things look out with the.
They've been trying to give the Thor an ability forever.
They've been. It's a constantly tweaking with them. They're trying to do something, but I like this. Self-repairing is cool. I don't think it's gonna like break the game to have self-repairing Thors, but because you can't move and you can't attack, you just got to sit there and repair. So
yeah, so you could repair it and then lose it.
Yeah,
because it's the wrong time.
So that's really our Terran stuff. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention or highlight before we switch over to some?
I was going to say, like, there's a ton of unlisted changes and things, and that I was mentioning to you before we started that I just found out today is a slight change to how the Marauder shoots. And the animation's different, everything. Instead of just shooting with one hand and one missile, he shoots two at a time. He still does the same amount of total damage, but it's 2 attacks, so armor has more of an effect on it. So it's less effective versus an armored unit, which I think is interesting, especially with like what we'll get into later with the Immortal change.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before we slide over, and actually I should have probably mentioned this ahead of time, but a couple of the changes, just general changes, worker change, mineral change, that I kind of, slightly. So everyone knows Brood War started with 4 workers. We jumped ahead. StarCraft 2 gave us 6. Okay, cool. They changed the way that you harvest minerals, how much minerals you return compared to Brood War to StarCraft 2, all that good stuff. But now they're basically going to be doubling it. You now get 12 workers to start, and they've cut down the amount of minerals that are at each base there. They basically cut off instead of having the 12 mineral patches, there's 10 essentially, or whatever. They basically.
I thought it was still the same amount. Is it?
Or did they just reduce how much minerals?
I was gonna say each mineral patch has about 1,000, I think now.
Okay.
Minerals.
I just knew that the overall they had less.
And gas is like 1,500
available to them, so that makes sense.
So it'll run out a lot faster, especially if you're using mules.
Yes, and so having the more workers, you'll run through your bases quicker. You have to expand more, be out on the map more, and kind of things. And so when I first heard this, before I saw any of the new units, and I was like, this seems ridiculous. Why would they want to basically cut out all of the exciting early game micro available now and just basically say, here's you can play super greedy now, you've got 12 workers and stuff like that. And I was really, really nervous about this, but now that I'm seeing a couple of the new units and seeing how these extra micro potentials, like with the Herc and stuff like that, I'm starting to feel a little bit better about it. I kind of feel that maybe 12 is too much of a jump, though. Like, I might be happier with maybe 8 or 10 or something like that. Like, because just going for them, they're like 2 increase or something like that. So we can still have some cool builds in the early stages that we're not just have to be so... We don't have to be as greedy. You know, we can still have that variety where some players can be greedy and they can be punished for it, where I don't see really how much you can be punished if everyone's got 12 workers kind of thing, and like you can build up.
I think you could still be punished if someone goes for economy, or you could still. I don't know.
It's hard to say because I haven't.
I assume they've done a
touched it.
lot of internal testing on this, especially to show it to us at BlizzCon with such confidence, being like, "Yeah, this is what we're thinking with the economy." But so that's a good point. It's a good.
Maybe we'll try to get Ravi on too next week when we have Dulk, and he can give us his thoughts on how it looked and everything. The other thing, Archon mode. Did you get? Well, I mean, they did an Archon mode for a show match at least.
For the show matches, so, they weren't 2v2s. They were Archon versus Archon. Yeah.
We all thought they were going to be 2v2s. So, Curran, explain what Archon mode is then.
Archon mode is, I guess, a callback to a mode in Brood War that I was actually unfamiliar with, where 2 players control 1 base. So you have this you both have the same control over the same units, same buildings, and you have to coordinate who's really doing what, so that you don't kind of pull a unit back and forth. So I think what a lot of the show matches they were doing is one player would kind of focus on macro, the other on micro, or they'd kind of split up onto 2 fronts and both be micro and 2 fronts. So yeah, I think it's a really cool idea, and like they said, the creators of it were saying in the interviews, it's a kind of something to take off the pressure for a new player, where you can almost be coached in a sense, or even if you're both new players, you're better together than you are by yourself, and you'll be able to do this on ladder,
which is pretty cool.
I
know StarCraft 2 had a custom game that did micro macro is essentially what it was, where there are certain maps, like ladder maps or old. I remember playing this like Wings of Liberty when they had it there, where one player would be set and they only were able to macro, and the other player was only able to micro. So they can sit there and they have control basically of your workers and of the buildings, and the other player has control of all attacking units. So they can't switch between the roles like the Archon mode, which is really cool that you can switch between the role. But the other one, I had a lot of fun with the micro macro stuff there back in like Wings of Liberty. So I'm really excited to be able to play Archon mode, especially with some of my buddies that are not as big into StarCraft 2. Like some of my friends that just play mono battles every so often. And that's really their only involvement with StarCraft nowadays. So it'll be fun to actually get them into playing a little bit more with Archon mode and stuff.
On that note, even, I'm really excited. I almost feel like, at least in the esports scene, I'm like the only person really excited for that other feature, Allied Commanders, which is basically sounds like a co-op campaign-like experience that it sounds like they want to make it so that you can kind of keep going. Like, it's not something they want to really have. They didn't mention any sort of definitive end to it. They said, you're going to keep going at this and build up your armies. And I don't know, it sounds really interesting, and I really like having co-op things with, my friends that aren't really competitive and don't really want to get into that competitive stuff.
Right. So a lot of cool stuff, general news, and we talked about Terran, so let's actually move over and talk Zerg. One of the races, when I saw these changes, I was like...
You're probably excited.
I said, okay, I'm done. I'm switching back to Zerg full time now. I guess this is what happens to happen. And you guys will understand after you watch through this video real quick.
Hello and welcome to a multiplayer update for Legacy of the Void. In this video, we will be discussing additions and changes coming to the Zerg race in the exciting conclusion of the StarCraft II trilogy. First up, let me introduce you to the Ravager. This unit is a morph off of the Roach, a ranged unit that comes with a new ability, Corrosive Bile, that deals damage to a target area. Corrosive Bile marks a target location, and after a brief delay, units and structures in that area are hit with high damage. This ability also has a powerful perk against Protoss. It can destroy force fields. In a PvZ matchup that includes Sentry versus Ravager, we anticipate a new contest of Micro that presents opportunities to both gain and lose advantage. When paired with Fungal Growth, Ravagers can reliably damage air units. As expected, Corrosive Bile is also particularly good against units with little to no mobility. If you want to avoid the damage from Corrosive Bile, simply make sure you dodge reactively whenever possible. For those of you that have been around StarCraft since Brood War, this unit hardly needs an introduction, the Lurker. As you'd expect, Lurkers in StarCraft 2 are capable of dealing massive splash damage. They also serve as a ranged siege option capable of outdistancing most units and all base defense structures. For Terran, countering the Lurker can be accomplished with the recently added Cyclone. To learn more about the Cyclone, be sure to check out our Terran update video. Of course, familiar micro moves from Brood War can also be used to take on the Lurker. Needless to say, we're looking forward to seeing these guys back in action. We're also making some changes to the current roster of Zerg units, starting with the Corruptor. We're adding a new ability to the Corruptor called Caustic Spray that deals damage to ground units and structures. This damage ramps up over time, making it a strong choice against buildings. Although not ideal against a mobile ground army, damage is damage, and in a tight matchup, every bit you can deal works to your favor. Next up, let's talk about the Infestor. We're giving the Infestor a new ability called Aggressive Mutation that grants a flat damage buff to friendly units. That means your basic Zergling Swarm is even more powerful against enemies that would have taken them out previously. In Legacy of the Void, the Swarm Host is going to be taking a bit more of an aggressive role when it comes to harassment. We have made the Swarm Host's Locusts stronger while lowering the frequency with which they can spawn. The Swarm Host will also be able to spawn Locusts while on the move, and upgrade them to fly in the late game. Keep in mind that massing Swarm Host will not be a viable strategy in Legacy, as the downtime between Locust spawns has been increased to a point that your Swarm Host army will be easily overrun. Of course, you can harass enemy bases with this new change as well. And finally, I want to talk to you about the changes coming to the Nidus Worm. Nidus Worms can no longer be damaged while emerging. This makes the Nidus Worm a more reliable option for drop harassment. In late-game situations where both sides have a lot of resources, the Zerg player can now force engagements at strategic locations by employing an army of Nidus Worms. That concludes the updates currently on the table for Zerg in Legacy of the Void. Keep in mind that everything is subject to change as we move into public testing. That being said, we are excited for the new possibilities available to Zerg players in Legacy of the Void, and look forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback as well. Thanks again for watching, and be sure to check out the changes coming to both Terran and Protoss armies.
Yay, Zerg! Of course, the unit I'm most excited for is the Lurker return. I don't know if we've had a confirmation if we can do hold position Lurkers yet, like Brood War. I have not seen or really heard much about that as of yet. Which was, if you guys remember watching Brood War, you can have the burrowed Lurkers, and just so if enemy units come near them, they won't attack. Then you can have them attack, and basically it would be like essentially burrow Banelings, but so much better. Now I don't know if that's going to be in or not. We haven't had confirmations, but I think that would be cool if they do that. I like the idea that they've got the changes that you can have an upgraded Roach essentially. What's the Roach upgrade guy called?
Ravager.
Ravager. Thank you. Breaks force fields, which is I think something that Zerg kind of needs.
Yeah. it can be a little ridiculous. Even as a TOS player, I'm like, okay, like
Yeah.
they can't even do anything right now.
Yeah. I remember, like, even, like, Wings of Liberty, like, TSL 3, for all you guys remember, with, like, Cruncher and stuff like that, versus Idra, with his force field donuts and trapping Zerg units in and making smiley faces and all the fun stuff of the early days there. So I think it's cool that they're adding that change in there. Its base damage, I heard, is pretty solid instead of just doing the kind of launch up hit attack. So it's not like it's going to be super weak
I
if
think
you
it's
do
got
it.
16 damage versus ground.
So yeah, very, very solid. With the kind of new units. I say new units because Lurker's an old unit, but new for the Zerg arsenal. The biggest...
Or yeah, the Lurker, you mean.
Well, the both of them, I think, do solid amount of damage there. But
yeah, the Lurker does even more damage,
yeah. What do you think about the Corruptor turning into a Void Ray? Like, when I saw that, that's the first thing I thought is, like, original Void Rays, where they power up and deal more damage over time.
See, I didn't even think of that. I thought of the ability that the Oracle had in beta for a little while, where it just melted buildings.
Yeah.
Couldn't attack units, but it can melt buildings. Where I think this can attack units as well.
Yes, yeah, they showed us killing tanks and stuff like that, but...
yeah, it just doesn't have a damage bonus, I think.
Yeah. So, I don't know. With watching that, 3 Corruptors took out a Nexus.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be that easy. And we didn't see anything come close to that in any of the show matches. Wasn't like Corruptors could just get in there.
And that's true. Like, with all these videos that we're seeing, there's no real interaction from the other player. It's more of like, here's the basic of what this attack can do. Yeah. Look at this. Kill the Nexus.
This. Yeah. Isn't that awesome? It's for hype, yeah.
I love the idea of Infestors getting basically a buff. Where they can buff extra units. Because this seems to be a rare thing for StarCraft 2. We're so used to just everything dealing damage or interacting with your opponent, and we don't have as much of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to give my own units a buff, besides, like, Stim, you know. Like,
I also think it kind of helps give the Infestor more of a role than it kind of with the one that it kind of lost when it got so many nerfs, and like a Neural's kind of not that great for anything.
Nope. For mono battles, that's when you use your Neurals, guys.
Yeah.
Against those battlecruiser players.
Is they missing that one unit that you love to use? Just go grab it.
Right? So maybe we can also hope Dark Archon will make a return, right? No?
At this point, I kind of doubt it.
I do. Maybe the campaign will see the Dark
That's
Archon.
What I'm hoping. We better get in campaign. I want a Dark Archon mission.
Yes. So Zerg is... Ravager and the Lurkers are the 2 units. They're the... I don't know. I'm very, very excited about the return of the Lurker. Especially since they've changed the way that Swarm hosts are. I don't have a confirmation with how quickly they spawn their locusts. They've said it's been reduced and all of that, and they can spawn them while they're unburrowed and everything. I really like this change. I think the stalemate of swarm host, mass swarm host, here's a bunch of static defense, go away kind of style can get very boring, especially with the Vipers and stuff like that, and I don't know. I think it can get very, very boring for people to watch. This change, though, where you could have a couple of swarm hosts, and actually as you're moving across going towards enemy bases, you can harass them a little bit with the locusts and have a little bit more fun stuff, especially that you can make the locusts fly.
But yeah, it sounds like you can't use it as, like you were saying, static defense anymore.
Right.
It's going to be one wave, and then if they clear that, you're in the open. Is what it sounds like.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't sound like when you get them the upgrade to fly, they don't get to attack air units. It just as they fly over stuff and land as regular units, it seems. So it's not like they're going to be super, super strong where you can sit there and still use them in every situation. No, it's not going to work like that.
It's like Locust mated with Broodlings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cyber actually making a good point saying that it's 60 seconds between spawns now. So a whole minute now that you've got to basically wait, and you really got to be able to get yourself set up, and that
have
could
something else to defend.
Right.
Yeah.
This can also combine well with my second favorite change to Zerg is the changes to Nidus.
Oh yeah.
Nidus, when they are unburrowing now, the worms they're popping out, they do not take damage. They are invincible temporary while they are unburrowed, because at this stage, Nidus is such a cool thing for Zergs to have as a extra harassment option. But because you have to basically turn it into an all-in or a gimmick style where you try to catch people
really
off
be
guard.
hidden.
Yeah, it's got to be hidden, or you're investing so much into it. Like every so often you'll see a couple Zerg players do it. Like MLG, Scarlet was, or not Red Bull with Scarlet versus Parting. On King Sejong Station, where she popped it out outside the third base or whatever, and basically went for that sort of all-in Nidus style of play, and that's really all it is. But with the video that we saw, where they can pop it up inside their base and stuff like that, that you know, once they're popped out and a few units start to pop out, or the first unit starts to come out, that's when you can be able to interact and attack them. But while they're spawning, you can't deal damage, which I think is necessary change, and I really hope that doesn't change going into beta and going into the game.
From what we saw, I don't think it should.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't get to see it in, of course, all the situations you would get to see it, but when we did see it in the show matches, from what I at least saw, maybe I missed one time it was used, but it still goes down very quickly after the fact.
Right.
And if you have like a full surround of workers on it, it's pretty much dead immediately. So I don't think it should be too overpowered. Maybe if it's a rush,
right,
and you're not prepared for it, but then in that case, you might be deserving to lose build order loss anyways.
yeah, at that point in time. So if looking through all the Zerg stuff, is there anything that you feel like is going to get some major changes? Like we talked a lot of stuff that's probably going to be tweaked up with like the Cyclone and stuff for Terran, and maybe changes to the way that Siege Tank drop is and stuff like that. But what do you think with the Zerg stuff?
I think probably a lot more number tweaks. I mean, I don't know. I feel like all around, the Legacy of the Void units feel a lot more thought out to me, or like well thought out to me than the original Heart of the Swarm Alpha ones. The original Heart of the Swarm Alpha ones just kind of felt a little thrown together, like it was kind of things they thought would be fun, but not things that were like
actually going
things
to have
people were asking for in gameplay, that the community's been begging for, which I feel like a lot of these units and changes directly address things that we've been hearing from the community over the past couple of years.
I think keep an eye on that Corruptor caustic spray stuff. I feel like that might be one of the things that we see adjusted quite a bit. Because even with the Void Rays, like they completely changed the way and the Locust as well. So, but with the new units, Ravager, Lurker, I like it. I'm happy with the way that they've got for the units. But we'll see. Let's slide over, unless there was any random stuff like the Marauder change that you can think of for Zerg that those
I think
super
the
secret
video covered most of the stuff.
Okay.
That I know of, at least.
Right.
I'm sure there's tons of stuff that,
maybe when we have
only the odd person at BlizzCon noticed, like, oh, hey,
look at that,
that one stat has changed.
Good stuff. So let's slide over and see the Protoss change. Like the other ones, we don't have full information because every race is supposed to get 2 new units. They've only revealed 1 new unit. They have said one's in the works, one's coming, but they didn't want to reveal another replicant or something like that and be like, look at this, guys, he's not making it into beta or whatever, but here's the dude. So we'll see what they've got in store for Protoss, though.
Hello and welcome to a multiplayer update for Legacy of the Void. In this video, we will be discussing additions and changes coming to the Protoss race in the thrilling conclusion to the StarCraft II trilogy. Let's get to it. New to the Protoss arsenal is the Disruptor, a micro-intensive splash damage option that can warp in at the robotics facility. This unit can go into an invulnerable energy form, and after a short duration, deal burst damage to all units around it. Micro is key to defense against the Disruptor. Otherwise, you will take massive damage. Then again, some units just deal with it. But if you can effectively micro your units to counter, you'll be able to take the Disruptor out. Now to the big guns, the Immortal. We're removing the Hardened Shield passive and adding an active ability that absorbs damage for a short duration. Changing up the Immortal's defense in this manner will open up new options for Micro on both sides of play. In a perfect engagement, Immortals now have the potential to stand against units that typically deal well with them. With these changes, Immortals will still be effective against units like the Siege Tank without being such a hard counter. Previously, in an engagement like this one, no Immortals would have been lost. The Warp Prism. This unit is getting some love with the ability to pick up other units from a distance. This change will also allow the Warp Prism to rescue critical units during engagements. We expect that with this change, we will see Drop Micro become a more core part of Protoss harassment. There are a few changes on the table for the Oracle. First, we are combining Revelation with Envision. Now, cloak units hit by Revelation are also revealed. This change combines the two similar abilities while opening up a new method of detection in situations where observers aren't the best option. We have also added a new ability to the Oracle called Stasis Ward. This is a trap set by an Oracle that is triggered when enemy units walk nearby, causing them to enter a stasis state where they can no longer attack, move, use abilities, or take damage. Undetected stasis wards at key locations have the potential to keep an enemy army at bay for significant periods of time. The Tempest has now been redesigned to only attack ground units, while also getting a significant buff to its movement speed. Alongside this, we have added a new ability to the Tempest called Disintegration that allows it to deal high, single-target damage over a long period of time. As you can see in this example, units tagged with Disintegration can either sit passively and die, or move out to do whatever damage they can before expiring. Lastly, changes have arrived to the Carrier. Interceptors can now be deployed to fight at a specific target area, allowing the opportunity to deal damage with the unit in multiple locations. You can now strategize ways to get maximum damage out of the unit at any moment. That concludes all the changes on the table for the venerable Protoss race. Keep in mind that everything is subject to change as we move into public testing. That being said, we are pumped for the new options open to Protoss players in Legacy of the Void. And of course, look forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback as well. Thanks again for watching, and be sure to check out the changes coming to both Zerg and Terran armies. I'm Cloakin with...
So, a little bit of exciting stuff for Protoss. Like, a lot of changes to our existing units, and they gave us a cool new robotics unit there, which is pretty sweet. But what do you think with the overall changes? Are you most excited about some of our existing unit changes, or excited about the Disruptor being added in there? What are you thinking?
Well, the most exciting thing for me is actually a combination of both, to be honest.
Okay.
And that's the Warp Prism change, where you can pick up from like a really far distance now, and you can pick up and drop, I believe, from a far distance. And combining that with the Disruptor, we basically just got Reaver drops back.
Yeah. Which is so awesome. I mean, we got to see some players try out the whole Colossus drops and stuff like that. But that's such a difficult and not an easy thing to do. But now, even with the Warp Prism changes to picking up and dropping easier, it's going to add some more fun stuff for those very, very skilled micro players, like Puck and stuff like that. So I'm very happy with the War Prism change in particular. The Oracle having the Stasis Ward, for any of you guys that are familiar with Arbiters from Brood War, they had a stasis ability there that would lock down stuff. You'd see it a lot in TVP, especially in those giant mech balls start building up and locking things down. You can stasis in there and be able to kind of position yourself where you need to be. So I love that it's a trap too, that you can set it and be able to position yourself, maybe lure them into a difficult position, and just adds more micro potential for you as well to set up all these extra stuff there and really get some elaborate stuff going. I like the changes to whole Envision and Revelation. It's just one thing. It's going to make me sad for my DT openings versus Stargate Protoss now. But what can I do? So I think that's maybe underwhelming, but an awesome change that it is kind of combined.
I think it's mostly for like the Banshee change, the Banshee upgrade, because it run an Oracle anyway normally, and like they showed in the video, they do the spell on them, and then the Phoenixes chase them down, and they can't outrun the detection. So it's outrunnable detection, I guess. Really. Yeah.
The dot that they've added in for the Tempest
also reminds me of Brood War move. I don't know about you. Science Vessel, anyone?
So this does 500 damage over 50 seconds, which is pretty sweet. Now, you have to be close in order to cast it. You don't get to have your full Tempest range and be like, I'm just going to sit back and throw dots on you.
And irradiate you.
Yeah. No, you can't do that. Sorry, guys. But I love the idea of adding dots into it, because you can do it to units or structures, is how it's set up right now. So you can get close and be like, oh, you got this cool key tech structure here. Nope. Gonna die. So I'm happy with that. I think you were talking to me a little bit about Immortals before the show, but what did you think about the changes to the whole Hardened Shield and Barrier, or whatever they're calling it?
It'll be interesting to see. Their video, I think, showed a good example. Like, they still do well against tanks if the ability is microed well, but it's not like just a complete sweep, which I think was one of the big problems of getting mech to work versus Protoss.
Yeah.
Was that Immortals would just wreck the tanks, and then you have no backbone, and you don't have a Warhound, you know.
Yeah, no. Not lucky enough for that.
I don't know. It's something I think we'll have to see how it plays out, but I like it.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it's looking.
I'll do worse. It's gonna hurt my game.
Yeah, right. That's why you just join me. Play Zerg. You'll be fine.
There you go. Right when my expansion finally comes out, I switch races.
I know. That's the downside to having Zerg and Protoss being my races. Even back in Brood War, I officially learned on Zerg, but then like found Protoss and like, oh, Dark Templars are the greatest units in existence. Like, how could I say no to them? So,
see, I'm a carrier guy. That's what keeps me coming back.
So, what do you think of the launch interceptors or release interceptors or whatever they're calling it?
So happy that they're just even giving the unit some attention.
Yeah.
Because back even when Heart of the Swarm was coming out, they looked like they just wanted to be done with it. They even said we're taking it out.
They were like, nope, we're removing it. And there was so much backlash from everybody. It was like,
I was part of that.
Yeah.
I was on those forums. No!
Why would you do this?
I was crying.
Yeah, so I like the idea that they get to do kind of a release interceptors. Now, they still, from what I understand, they get to attack normal, but it's just like an ability. So if your carrier is about to die, you release your interceptors. One last ditch effort to see how much more I can kill before I die.
I'm wondering if the leash range has changed. I think the launch range is still about the same. It looked like on the videos they all had to get to a certain distance to launch, and then they could move away. But I'm wondering if that's longer or even if it's infinite now, because like we saw, they can die. The carrier can die, and they'll keep fighting.
Yeah. They only fight for like another minute or so, but still that extra minute could be.
Yeah, it's like a timed ability. They'll just kind of hang there, I think. I really just wish I could get my hands on it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that would make things easier.
Unfortunately, while I was telling you, I was really excited for the Legacy of Void stuff. More excited for the show matches than the WCS stuff. And then for Protoss, all the people that were playing Protoss didn't really use all the stuff I wanted to see get used.
Yeah.
They used like the normal shit.
Yeah.
I was like,
how can you do this?
So I didn't get to see a lot of the Disruptor being used well. Didn't get to see the carrier really in action.
Yeah.
But really excited that, yeah, exactly. They're even giving it some attention, and they want to make it a viable capital ship. And I think the Tempest change was also part of that.
Yes.
Making sure that it didn't counter the unit that we all love. You know?
Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with majority of the changes. Just like with they first released information about all of the expansions, really. Everything that they release, all the stuff that comes out in alpha, doesn't tend to make it all the way to beta and all the way to the game's release. But I'm very happy with the changes that we're seeing.
I'm happy with the approach most of all, I'd say. Everything, even if it changes, I like our starting point a lot.
Yeah, and they clearly are more interested in doing micro for the game and stuff like that. They feel like it'll be better overall. So I'm very happy that they're thinking about that, at least. But I don't know, can you think of anything else with Protoss? Any other super secret stuff, like double guns out of Marauders and stuff?
I know a lot of people were confused by it, especially when they saw it in the show matches, and the players were even confused by it, I think. The Nexus cannon only shoots ground now. Does not shoot air.
Really? I do not like that. I do not. Yeah. I'll be honest. I love being able to be like, oh crap, there's a whole bunch of Mutalisks. Boom. Now I can at least survive long enough to get my army over here and warp in a bunch of stalkers and stuff. No.
That might be the point. They might not want you doing that.
I know. I don't know why.
Want you to make a cannon or two.
I just hate playing against Mutalisks when I'm Protoss.
I fully understand that.
That's how I feel about it. But
from a very young age, even.
Yeah,
I fully understand that.
So that's really the Legacy of the Void stuff that we wanted to highlight for a little bit there.
One other, before we move on.
Yeah.
Another change to Protoss is Warp Gate. I'm pretty sure all the other numbers are the same, all the times and everything. But when you warp in, when your unit's warping in, it now takes 200% damage. So they die instantly. Yes. Like we were seeing Stalkers die to like a single siege tank shot because they were being warped in, so they took the extra damage.
Which I think is cool. It's one of the benefits of having Protoss is your remax capability, and a lot of people have difficulty with that. Especially if they're sitting here reinforcing so close to a decisive battle kind of thing. Makes you might have to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings before just doing those aggressive warp ins. So I like that.
You have to have a safe place to warp in, just like you need a safe place to have your production as a Terran.
So I like it. I'm happy. I'm excited to be able to get my hands on the beta.
I just want someone to make one of the faux test maps like they did for Heart of the Storm alpha stuff.
No, they have announced that there's no official date as of yet, but the beta, their time frame that they're shooting for is the first half of 2015. So I'm assuming sometime before summer we might be able to get some more information about, here's the beta coming up and stuff like that. So maybe we'll have to just keep our eyes open for it. I wouldn't be surprised if it, the first season of WCS is finished up before they even bring out beta stuff for it and everything like that, because I feel like they'd want to keep. I don't know. I don't think they want to have too many players jump in and just focus on the beta and not focus on like the regular Heart of the Swarm tournament scene and stuff like that. So
even though that's where I'd totally just like, let's just switch over now.
Right. I think a lot of people are under that mentality. So we'll see what happens with it. But that's one of the things we're going to keep you guys up to date on Legacy of the Void updates. Dulk will give us his thoughts on it next week. Maybe we'll have Ravi on. He can tell us firsthand what things were like since he was at BlizzCon. And we'll see how it goes with that. But that was our kind of Legacy of the Void talk. We spent pretty much an hour of the show talking Legacy of the Void because it's super exciting.
Yeah.
It's the next step.
It's kind of a big deal for any StarCraft show, I would think.
Yeah. Very, very true there. So why don't we slide over, before we get into the actual tournaments and stuff, we have a couple of team and player changes for the week to kind of discuss. And as always, guys, some of these players you might be familiar with, because sometimes we do talk about a little bit more well-known players, but we also highlight some of the up-and-coming teams, up-and-coming players that you might not be as familiar with, because especially with WCS changes next year, you're going to start to get to know the players, or at least hopefully, with them getting into Challenge League and getting into Premier League. But first order of business, if any of you guys were familiar with Brood War, familiar with early StarCraft II Wings of Liberty style, Noni has kind of officially announced on his Twitter that he's kind of all done streaming StarCraft II.
He said this before, though.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is mean like he's still playing and just doesn't feel the need to stream it. And, especially with Legacy of the Void coming out, maybe we'll see him crop up every so often, but I don't know. I haven't really seen much of Noni lately. I just remember seeing that, and so figured mention that a little bit there. In interesting change, Fnatic and Neeb have parted ways. Neeb, of course, being America's, I guess, next Terran hope is the best way to put it. Like, we had QXE for a long time that held the kind of title of our Terran, U.S. Terran player. Illusion cropped up as well as one of them. But with Heart of the Swarm, I would say Neeb has really kind of brought it of his own, getting up through Challenge League and being one of our consistent Premier League WCS NA players. So, he's no longer with Fnatic, but Neeb is going to be continuing playing. He said he's going to be playing in WCS, continuing along, just not going to be playing under Fnatic. And for those that don't know, he was on Fnatic's academy team as well. Not even their main team. So maybe he has found something better. Maybe we'll just see him on Root or something. I don't know. They get all the NA players, it seems. No.
I would say My Insanity, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, yeah, we will talk a little bit about My Insanity's pickup there. But I hope that, I don't know, with trouble going on around the board with the NA teams and such, it's going to be tough for a lot of the players, I feel, that aren't able to make it into Challenge League in the first couple of seasons. But maybe with the changes and everything, maybe with the announcement of Legacy of the Void, we'll see a little bit of a kind of resurgence for teams and stuff. Who knows? But just wanted to mention that for all you guys that should be familiar with Neeb at least. In EU-related news, Slivko, which I didn't even know he was on New Era, but
he's not.
He was at some point, but not anymore. Not anymore. So he's not with New Era Gaming. He's looking for a new team, he says. It's got a very silly picture about it too, saying my contract has ended and I'm Biggest Biceps looking for a new team. So in case you're looking for a player with big biceps to represent your team, Slivko's your man there. But Kern, what about some of our other changes? You were mentioning My Insanity. What's going on with them?
So My Insanity made a big pickup that I think everyone was kind of surprised at, but excited is the general kind of feel I got from everyone's reaction. and that is Rain.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is, it's super exciting. I mean, you know, we've been hearing about players being like, you know, I want to go to foreign teams, I want to do this, I want to do that kind of thing, and My Insanity has a crazy lineup of players now. When we look at top teams, especially foreign teams there, a couple of years ago we were thinking, oh, Liquid, we were thinking of EG and stuff like that, and now it's My Insanity really is the kind of premier team.
Not only do they have these really strong top heavy hitter Koreans, but then they have a really strong stable of just rich talent that it's continuing to prove itself and get better and better. It's exciting for them.
Yeah, definitely. So good news for that. And Cybert saying, yeah, Rain found a home. Glad that is happening. But what about else? What else did we have with some of our team and player changes?
Yeah, and then we had Micro Gamers disband.
Didn't Micro Gamers just pick up somebody recently?
I want to say they did, yeah.
Oh, I can't remember who they did. Wikipedia it is. Micro Gamers. But yeah, so what happened with them disbanding? What was the announcement all about? Did you get to read?
In the announcement, they say they just lost all of their management, basically. They say they suffered, to put it in their words exactly, to quote them, they suffered a total loss in upper and lower management and have become inactive for over 2 months with no proper replacements.
Yeah, that's not good.
So
Spanishiwa was the player they just picked up.
Oh, yeah.
And that was October 20th. So that's yeah, not good.
Yeah, they'll say they're closing their doors at the end of the month, and all player contracts have been paid out. And they wish them the best of luck. Okay. Probably one of those unfortunate situations that I've seen before where, you know, someone can't do the work anymore and there's no one really to fill their shoes. No one else has the time.
That happens more often than not, sadly.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
So that sucks, especially with Spanishiwa just getting back into the game and kind of just finding a home. Then they've got some great players. I mean, they shifted really away from sort of the foreign base and kind of picked up a lot of Koreans too, like people like Tree, people like Galaxy and stuff like that. So it sucks that now that all these players do not have a home. It sucks for Micro Gamers and their management unable to keep up with things or find someone to help out. You know, managing a team is a lot of work. So yeah, best of luck to all the players. Hopefully we hear good stuff from all the guys that left their organization soon.
Yeah.
But those were our sort of main team and player changes. We do have a couple of events to talk about, in particular Copa America, IM qualifiers, Home Story Cup, and then kind of WCS stuff. Those are the kind of four main stuff or so that we're going to be talking about. Copa America is coming up this weekend, so just wanted to highlight it again in case you guys have not been paying attention to everything for whatever reason with all of the other stuff that's been happening. You've missed out on it. But Copa America has our top couple spots. The players are in Peru right now, or heading to Peru this week to be able to play. And it's our basically everybody versus Major tournament. Is the best way to put it there, because Major is the king of Copa America. He's been consistently winning all the time. Just it's his event. But this time that they've added in the NA players, it should be a little bit more exciting. You know, we've got Major, B-Lord, Cham, Katz, Huck, Jim Rising, Jon Snow, and Desro as all the players there. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Major versus Huck in the winter finals, and somebody like Jon Snow versus Huck in the loser bracket finals, kind of thing. But I don't know. What would you think? Do you think that I haven't really seen much of Desro lately, so I can't. It's hard to say. Jon Snow, I've seen him play for a long time now, so I've got a little bit more. I guess I root for him more often.
Familiarity.
More familiarity with him. I root for him more often than most players. So I don't know. We'll see how Jon Snow does going into it, because Jon Snow did do very well last season. The one season that Major was not there, it came down to Jon Snow and Huck in the finals, and Jon Snow beat Huck.
There you go.
So
he could very well make it to the winners final there. Yeah.
But there's a lot of ZVZs to kind of consider too.
That's true.
With the only 2 Protoss players being at the event are from Canada, Huck and Desro. The rest are all Zergs, and then there's Major. But what do you think? Do you think it's going to be a Major victory, or are we going to see an upset?
I think that's the most likely thing that will happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the most likely outcome. I do think there's a very good chance, if you look at this, for the winners final to be a North versus South.
Yes.
Which could be fun. But we'll see. We'll see how Jim Rising does. Maybe he can really bust through. He's got some tough players though on that side of the bracket.
Yep. So we'll keep you guys posted next week on how it goes. I just wanted to highlight for you guys, in case you've missed it, we've been highlighting at least during the regular seasons when things are taking place for it. But slide over to at least the IAM stuff, because there's some cool stuff happening. Everything is basically set up and ready for the America qualifiers to determine who's going to be our 2 spots making it over from America. We talked about at least the main qualifiers leading up to it, but now we know Violet is going to be playing Betrayus. Masa plays Hendralis. I don't know what is up with that. How did that end up happening, that they get to play first round like that? I don't know. Good job, Masa. You got the win. Major versus Moose Skills there. Intense versus Puck. Huck versus Demo. Calazar versus QXC. Suppy, Bales, Peely, and Scarlet. When I look through the bracket, I see a lot of great up-and-coming talent that are going to be consistently in WCS next year. And I'm talking about the players like Intense, Demo, Calazar, Bales, Peely, those kind of guys. Yeah. Moose Skills even. Like, they are consistently going to be in WCS next year.
They're the ones that work for it. Yeah.
Yes. Whether it's top challenge league, low premier league, whatever it's going to be for a lot of these guys. But you are going to be seeing these guys' names a lot more. And then it seems to be sort of the old school classic foreign NA players that we're familiar with. Violet, Major, Huck, QXC is in there, Suppy's in there, Scarlet, those kind of guys are all in there. And then, of course, Masa and Hendralis that are becoming a lot more well-known nowadays, especially after this year. They're constantly playing the finals of the Tourcraft stuff, so it's interesting that they have to play first round. And everyone knows that Masa basically beats Hendralis 99 times out of 100, or there's that one time that Hendralis takes a game off him or something like that. No, I don't. So that's, interesting that Masa's basically got an almost straight shot to the semifinals if he's playing on his game, because he seems to do, Dulk has talked about this before, he seems to do very well not at the actual event. Like he had struggled at IAM Toronto where he kind of some nerve issues and stuff like that, but being at home or being somewhere where he can just play and not really focus on the nerves and stuff like that, he can play better. So if he just gets pumped up and ready and practices very hard his TVZ, he could have a really good shot going through Hendralis and making it to the semifinals over Violet or Portreus there. So that's going to be exciting to see. But Kern, what did you think with some of maybe our up-and-coming players or some of our well-known players? How do you think things are going to work? Because we do have, good amount of players that are going to qualify up, and a good amount of a mix of players for the IEM stuff.
I do feel like it's actually a really good mix, and even though some people might look at this and say, oh, well, these names are the clear winners, maybe it's because I follow the up-and-coming NA scene so much, but yeah, a lot of these guys have the potential to beat who they're matched up against, even, the lower-end people. And I don't know. I think it'll be interesting.
Tom was,
it's exciting to see him.
Right, there. Right. Tom was saying, like, Huck, Scarlet, kind of his picks going into it. Which, like you said, those are easy to think about with how much we've been seeing those players play for such a long time and seeing them consistently do well. I
think the biggest thing they have working for them is they don't have the same nerve issues that a lot of the guys I'm talking about that do stand a chance might encounter.
Yeah, if I had to look through the list, Scarlet, Huck, Puck, Major, and Violet, those 4 guys there, I guess 3 guys and girl, all are consistent with doing well in tournaments. They're familiar with how things work. They're sort of our, if we looked at next year, if just like out of all those lists, if we're looking at Premier League, WCS, NA players, those 4 easily stand out as could be considered those Premier League players from us. Scarlet, Huck, Puck, Major, Violet, those guys. So I think some of the other guys really, it's a perfect proving ground. And it's perfect. We've seen Huck lose to some of these guys before. Even like in the Copa America stuff, losing to Jon Snow in the finals kind of thing. Something that most people, if they went into it, were like, oh, Huck's playing in a tournament with a bunch of NA players and South American players. Easy. Huck's got this, no problem. But then when you look at it and see as it goes, it's not as cut and dry. So
not all that black and white.
Yep. I do feel, though, that Scarlet does stand out a little bit more out of the group.
I think she's definitely one of the strongest players listed here,
And I would be shocked if she doesn't get one of the 3 spots. But I couldn't say who would get the others. Like, it's too hard to really predict.
It really is.
And I think that's what's going to be really exciting for you guys to watch and see, learn a little bit more about some of these players that are going to be in Challenge League next season, going to be in Premier League next season. So, did want to highlight that a little bit for the IM America qualifiers, because those are coming up. Still got a little bit more time for that, but did want to highlight it a little bit. We also have Home Story Cup, which is all planned and ready for this weekend. The full list has been announced. We know who all the players are going to be, who's going to be there. Tasia, of course, coming off his round of 4 Blizzcon event. Spoilers. Tasia did not win.
Thanks, Artosis.
Yeah. Joxy, of course, making it to BlizzCon, playing in the show matches and everything. Doing very well for himself. Hyuna as well, playing in those show matches. MC playing in the show matches. But it's got a home story feel to me. Like, we've talked about it a couple times. It does. We've got the EU players there that are consistently playing in these sort of events, and then we've got the powerhouse Koreans. Tasia's there, Flash is there, Parting is going to be there, Baby is going to be there, Jaedong, Hyun. So it's going to be cool. Do you think we're going to see just a Korean dominance I think every group except for one has a Korean in it, and that's Group D.
I want to say yes, just because, we all want that Flash J-Dong finals.
Yeah.
But
let's make it happen.
But I don't think it'll be complete dominance. I think Korea altogether, if you will do well. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of other people in here that can definitely take games off Koreans. And, yeah.
I think especially like Group C, it's going to be cool. MC Bunny going to advance out. Calling it. Mini Razor has been doing better for himself, but Todd is coming off casting BlizzCon. I don't feel
he's been practicing Legacy, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's not practicing his poker game. Him and MC.
Oh yeah.
But no, it's going to be good to see how things work out. That's actually like a couple days away. And in other news, Group D originally did have a Korean/American. Pult was in Group D, but Pult has canceled his participation. And Petraeus is now, since he was second in the American qualifiers, he does pop into that spot. So he's going to be there with Hasuab, Stacy, and Snoot. Which
is awesome.
Yeah, that's great to see there.
That should be a good group too.
It should be. There's a lot of really good groups. It's also cool to see like players like Demaga that we don't really see very often at all.
Not these days. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's going to be there. I mean, he's in a group with Lucira, Mana, and Jakshi, so we're not going to see much of him, but we'll be seeing him for a little bit.
No one went with the Kong Ho, did they? I tried, I respected what's your name? Okay, that's a good enough reason, I guess.
I can't. He's Lucira. he like I don't know. He's always gonna be Lucira. I tried it a couple times, but it just sounds wrong. So he's Lucira.
Like I'm not talking about the right person right now.
That's exactly it. All right, Richard, just rub it in, talking with Grubby at BlizzCon. It's cool. But he's I guess a lot of players are playing stuff like Heroes of the Storm and everything like that. Overwatch is
I would have been in that line
out.
Like crazy. I was there.
I love the trailer for it, and I continue to say I love the trailer for it because I thought it was great, and I have yet to see gameplay footage of it. But
which I'm telling you is just as great, if not better.
See, I'm not a first-person shooter kind of guy. I
am if they're goofy and fun enough.
Okay,
if it's something I see, I could just play with a group of friends, which is what this looks like. Like I could just get, 4 of my buddies, and we just have fun.
See, I've never I've played Half-Life LANs before and played with people. I've played Halo, and I've played shooter games, and I played.
So you ever played TF2?
No, see, I never played TF2.
It's from what I can get, it's more like TF2 mixed with a couple other kind of like battle arena games.
Okay.
That are really obscure that I've played over the years.
See, I'll probably give it a chance. I'm not like Richard said. Well, see, I'll give it a chance, but I'm most excited for spectator mode in Hearthstone.
Oh, you would be.
Just for my random Blizzard tangent news there for all you guys.
Does Heroes have spectator mode yet?
No, I don't think so. So.
And that camera.
It's still alpha. It's still alpha. What can you do? It took.
I want my observer.
Right.
Alpha,
it took months after Hearthstone was released before we got it, and we don't even get it till December. So it's still even in the works. We'll get it eventually, coming soon. I don't know. So that's back on track though, because we're almost done with this. That was our info for all you guys with the Home Story Cup. But I did want to show you the cool pic of the BlizzCon crowd because it did look pretty awesome.
And the stage. The stage.
I think every event for StarCraft needs to have, if you're gonna have a main stage, have point of view.
A multi-billion-dollar stage.
Well, I'm not having this amazing stage, because that was an amazing stage, but having the extra screens for point of view is so helpful for players.
Well, it's something they did in Brood War too.
Yeah. I mean, MLG did it for a little bit. Something that I wish Red Bull had done. Something that I wish IAM New York had done, kind of thing. Because I don't remember if IAM in New York did it or not. Maybe they did. I don't know. It was like a year ago. It's, I don't know. But I did want to show you guys that before we slide over and actually talk about the finals there. Because finals happened, and I have to say, I didn't get to watch Friday. And I feel like I'm to blame for Bomber's loss in the quarterfinals because I was not home to cheer him on. I was stuck at work, and I come home heartbroken to find out that he loses to MMA.
Bomber's never gonna forgive you. He's not answering your calls anymore.
It's true. We're fighting now, and it's not a good feeling. So I was heartbroken about that. But then I was like, all right, if anyone was gonna beat him, I'm happy that it's at least MMA. It's awesome. MMA does well at BlizzCon. This is cool.
Bastard son of boxer.
Exactly. Okay. I guess if it's got to be any Terran player, might as well be him. The PvPs between Hero and Classic were exciting. Got to see some high level PvP for the very few Protoss players able to make it to the event. San versus Life. I just wish we had Dulk here for the Life talk, because Dulk has been such a hater of Life.
And so he says he has homework, but
he's been a hater of Life for at least a year. I know of, at least minimum of a year.
It's since Life showed up.
Yeah. Rose to power, getting championships. This is the worst Zerg champion in existence. No, I don't know.
And I'm like, so he's just your age? Shouldn't it be all of them?
No, he's hated on Life. But he did say before the show when he was telling us he had stuff, he doesn't hate on Life as much now. He watched his play and saw that there wasn't all these holes in his play I guess a year ago. And was like, all right. I'll give Life, you got a golf clap for this weekend. That's all I'll give you, kind of thing. I don't know. So
Life gets a golf clap for channeling the spirit of Julyzer.
Yes, yeah.
It's I will use my lanes.
But I was hoping San was gonna have a deep run. We talked last week with the preview, and I was like, it's gonna be great. San's gonna beat Life. He's gonna play Tasia. It's gonna be exciting. Tasia's gonna beat San. Bomber versus Tasia finals. And then when that didn't happen, and it was MMA was playing Classic, Life beat San, was going to play Tasia, I was like, okay, it's all right. It's okay, guys. MMA beats Classic, no problem. Moves on. Tasia's going to beat Life. He's on his game right now. Beat Sue, beat Innovation, no problem. He's on his game. And then it's going to be MMA versus Tasia. It's going to happen. And then, oh no. No,
the Tosis had different plans.
Yeah, it's sometimes that's how it goes.
You got to make sure you hide yourself from Artosis's radar if you're one of these top tier players. Otherwise, you're just never gonna win anything.
Yeah, you'll be cursed. The Artosis curse.
Forced into retirement.
So Life beast modes 3-2 Tasia. And then just says, you know what, MMA? You're cool and all, but no. I'm just going to crush you. I remember watching those games, and I felt sad for MMA. I did. It was a tough battle, and I thought it was a good finals, though. I felt happy that it was 4-1 because there was a lot of delays for the day, and it was a long time before it even really got to that stage.
Yeah.
As cool as it would have been to have it be a 3-2, have that come back or whatever, but Life was just playing better. There's no real disputing it. Like 3-0s Son, 3-2s Tasia, 4-1s MMA. It's hard not to say that Life is the best Zerg player right now. And especially with that week. Everyone can argue, oh my gosh, Sue and Jaedong and this, that, and Hyun. And Sue is
as much as I'd love to say Jaedong's the best Zerg in the world, he's got a little ways to go still.
Yeah. And Sue, he's gonna be the king of second place. He's gonna be yellow for a while, guys. Don't worry about him.
The Kong line is real.
It is. So good for Life. Coming back up there, like he did well at the beginning of the year, and we really hadn't seen him do as well kind of late of the year. So this is cool to see him be like, you know what, I'm still around, guys. I'm still a presence, someone to be reckoned with there. I don't know. It's Jaedong always best Zerg in our hearts.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I'd like to put him up there outside of my heart.
So, and I don't know how to pronounce your name because I'm bad at pronouncing stuff, but
Smedley.
There we go, Smedley, because Kern is my dog for tonight. He's gonna tell me how to pronounce stuff. He's got the opposite idea of me, because I said that Sue's gonna get second place all this year, and he's gonna come in first major tournament of next year. He's going to get second place again, and then he's going to get that first place. It's going to happen. I think he's going to be able to get a first place next year, and then he might fall off right afterward. But he's going to get that first place. I can feel it. Cybert saying he wanted to steal Jaedong there, but with the players that all made it to the round of 8. Even with the top 16 players, I was happy with the players that all made it to the top 16. They were all champions. They all did very well of encompassing 2014, I feel.
Definitely. Even though, it's all Korean.
Even though it is all Korean, we got very close near the end there. Snoot, Bunny, Scarlet, all those were kind of fighting up for those spots. In particular, Snoot and Scarlet getting close, just not able to get it in the end. I feel like it was a good end to the 2014 season. Kind of the last little end of the Korean dominance in every region.
There you go.
Because it's we're not going to be seeing as many Korean-filled spots, I feel, for WCS America, WCS EU. We might still see it for EU because of the dream hacks and this, that, and the other thing, and players like MMA and stuff playing in EU, that it's still possibility. But I think it was a good round out to the end of things. I'm sad Bomber didn't win. I
know. If I could, I'd pat you on the back right now.
I feel like I was okay. I'm sad he didn't win, but I'm happy I got to see him win in 2014.
Right there you go. You did get to see DC.
I did get to see him win in DC. But what do you think about our top 4 players? How do you think they're going to do for next year?
I mean, MMA, I think he can continue to at least stay up there.
And he did tweet about it. He's going to be playing for at least another year.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Because there was some speculations and some talks about maybe he's retiring and everything, but he said, no, I will at least be playing for one more year. So.
Tasia, though, I don't know. We've always been kind of hearing rumors of Tasia retirement around the corner and things. So that, I wonder, maybe Tasia, if he doesn't get something really big, will just call it.
Mm-hmm.
I hope not.
Or his wrist will just get too bad for him and he just won't be able to keep up. That's also a possibility, sadly. Classic and Life.
Yeah. And say Life, I think, is... I mean, he's still so young. He's still got so much potential.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he can just continue to get better and faster. So I think we'll still see Life stick around, even if he does kind of waver at certain points
Mm-hmm.
where we see him kind of fall down. But I think he'll get back up, you know, if that does happen. Classic's really good, but he's one of those players, for me, I don't catch a lot of his games for some reason. It's not that I'm, like, not trying to catch them or...
It's just, yeah.
Yeah. I don't get to catch a lot of them, so I don't... With Protoss players, it's a lot about the way that you play Protoss. I feel that can affect how long your success will last.
And
because there's a lot of gimmicky stuff you can do with Protoss.
Right. And what's cool, too, with our top 16 is we have two of the longest, most consistent Protoss players out there, with MC and San being there. Like Stardust and stuff like that has sort of rose up more recently than those guys, but these guys were like Wings of Liberty GSL days.
MC has continued to stay consistent.
Yeah, and still like making it to the top 16 players in the world there. Like there's no disputing that everybody that made it into BlizzCon are top 16 players in the world at this point in time. I think it's, I don't know how you could dispute otherwise. But I think it's going to be good next year. They did an amazing job for BlizzCon. The stage was great. I love the whole host caster stuff that they had set up. I think Tasteless did a great job running hosts.
He did such a good job, but I love Tasteless so much. I was like, why aren't you casted? Like, oh.
Yeah. I don't know.
He did a great job.
He did. Like it's with him and Red Eye kind of thing, like Red Eye doing the introductions and that kind of stuff, and Tasteless sort of running the desk, if you will, with that whole interactions with all top notch from all the guys there doing the production. The observing was great. From
round of 8 up, I will agree. Yes.
Observing yes. Exactly. At BlizzCon itself, top notch. Keep up the good work.
Selected health bars. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
So we just got to switch that UI and we'll all be good.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. So overall, a amazing end to the WCS season, I feel. We talked about the changes to WCS, last week and stuff like that. And sadly, we were not at BlizzCon.
Yeah. I wish,
because we're not. We don't have the monies for that.
But like Smedley mentioned there, the stage was even cooler because, like it would change depending on the race of the player. It would be, a Zergy kind of thing over there. Like, just so cool that it was like an interactive stage. Explosions on the winner, like... Yeah. One of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yes, I think that's, keep it up, Blizzard. Keep doing what you're doing.
It was up there with the Daft Punk light show, let's just say that. And that's one of the best light shows out there.
I like Cybert's point, though, is that he's sad that we didn't get to see a triple cast. And even, like, in past years, like, the seeing the Day 9 Artosis Tasteless triple cast, and, like, there's so many opportunities with all of the casters that you had this weekend to be able to do some fun stuff like that, even just for like the show matches. Give us something.
Yeah.
Maybe next year. I guess gonna get improved apparently. The stage.
What? Well, awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what else you can do, but good. Oh, they need to change the walkway. I don't know.
As long as it's just as epic,
yeah,
I'll have no complaints.
No problem with me. Maybe I'll get to see it up close next year.
There you go. Maybe I'll have money next year.
Yeah, I probably will, because I got to be saving up for like engagement rings and weddings and real life stuff, since I just bought a car, and I don't know.
So these are the reasons why I don't have the money this year.
Yeah. Moving parts, that would be sweet, like rotating parts of the stage, and oh yeah, there could be cool stuff with that. But that's really kind of our main topics before we get too sidetracked with other stuff.
How awesome BlizzCon was, just in general.
Yes. And if you guys missed the panels and stuff like that, I know pretty much.
I think they're all on YouTube now.
Yeah, I think majority of them are up, and we're up like very shortly after BlizzCon. So, make sure you guys check out the different things if you miss them, because there's some great little panels about Legacy of the Void. I watched the campaign stuff because I do not care about getting spoiled for the campaign, because I'm just like, you're not going to tell me who dies and who lives or anything like that.
They're
You're
not
just
going to
be
tell you the important stuff.
you're just giving me cool little snippets that I should be excited
This
for.
is who you play as.
Yep.
This is the kind of stuff you'll be doing. This is how we designed the missions.
Yeah, like yes, I do care about that.
Yeah, I like to know what to expect going in, personally.
But for the actual units and stuff like that, there are interviews with the players and everything. If you guys haven't had a chance to see it, I think Suppy, Scarlet, Rotterdam, Pult, Huck, and Apollo all got interviewed.
And MMA and Bomber are going to be up.
Yes, MMA and Bomber will be up.
I don't think they're up yet.
They currently just have the exhibition matches in place.
Check those out too if you're interested in this.
So you get to see some of the units in action.
Get to see the terror of the Cyclone.
Yeah. No, thank you. But next week we will be having Dalk back on, so he can talk to us about how much he loves life. And
he's been converted.
Yep. Maybe we'll be able to try to grab Ravi and have him talk a little bit about his BlizzCon experience. Maybe we'll get Richard.
What do you mean, talk a little bit?
Maybe we'll get Richard and Ravi on, and they can talk to us about going to BlizzCon and the excitingness, and maybe that'll be a 2-hour-long show with Ravi on. Who knows? But that's
well, Richard there to keep him in check.
There you go. Exactly. That's all our plan there. But before we go to shoutouts and stuff, was there anything that we missed or we should slide over and talk about before we call it an evening? I feel like there might have been something, but I don't know. I tend to just speed through tunnel vision.
Yeah. I don't know. We did spend a lot of time just nerding out on the BlizzCon, Legacy of the Void stuff, so I think we covered most of that. I think if we missed anything, it would be somewhere in that heap of hype awesomeness that we got over the past weekend.
I do. Yes. Quick update, though. Tourcraft. The second place players have been kind of officially announced for the whole cup stuff with the groups A's and B. Maso, of course, already got first. Hengelis got first in his group, respectively, because it's Tourcraft. But the second place for each group, Believe, or Naya, got second behind Masa. No Regret and Desro were third and fourth, I guess, respectively. I don't know what's up with Desro. It looks like he didn't show up and play. Yeah, Believe got the walkover against Desro. So there you go. But with the Group B, BioIce locked him in for second place. I think there was some speculation with Samuel and stuff like that, but BioIce able to get it. Elegance and Samuel there were able to get in their fourth and third place. But just wanted to mention that for all of you guys in case you were following along and keeping track at home there. But I think that was the last little snippet there. Any comments on WCS 2015 there? If you guys watch WCS 2012, it's going to have a lot more of a feel to that. I think I still have the... Actually, let me look. Let me slide over to this screen for a second. Because I still should have the image that I like the image that they had for it.
Oh, yeah. I remember the
WCS.
one from last week.
Yeah.
Last week, yeah.
So this image was my favorite one for it. Because there's a unified Premier League for EU and A, essentially, is kind of how they've designed it out to be. Where now we've got awesome music coming now. We've got players coming from different regions all over the world now. China has their own spots guaranteed, making it in. Latin America now, giving a little bit more love to some of our Copa America friends. They now can have kind of guaranteed spots into it. Even the Oceania, Southeast Asia guys get some spots. Taiwan, Hong Kong, they get some spots in there. Europe, of course, gets a lot of spots. NA gets their own spots as well. So it's gonna be great to see. I've got the feel of 2012 with it initially. Just looking at it, to me, some players might be a little bit more hesitant about it, but by combining the two regions, they are able to increase the prize payout for everybody in Challenge League and everybody in Premier League now. They basically now have double prize pool feeding into it, both from EU and NA, to kind of give, oh, you're in Challenge League, well, here's extra money that you would be getting, essentially. So I don't think they have an official breakdown of how much yet. They're still working on those kind of finer details, but I am really, really excited for how this is going to work out. I'm still not sure 100% how they're doing qualifiers and coverage for like the Latin America, the Oceanic, Taiwanese, how they're doing all the coverage for yet, and that those details are going to be worked out a little bit later. So it's going to be... I'm very excited. This is the way WCS should be, I feel. You know, the 2013 season was horrible. I'm just going to put it lightly. It was horrible. And that's me putting it lightly. 2014 was a much better improvement.
Yeah.
And they're just getting better and better. A lot of people have been like, oh, why do they keep changing it? Because they're trying to get it
right.
Yes, exactly. They can. It's better to fix it now than to be like, it's not working, but we're just going to try to stick with it for a while and see if it maybe fixes itself. No, it's not going to do that. You gotta do it. So I'm very excited for things to actually get started with it. I know 2014 we got to do some of the qualifiers for WCSNA at least. So we're going to be working on at least be able to do some qualifiers coverage for you guys going into next season, especially for the fact that we are the longest running StarCraft web show podcast out there currently, and our main focus is on all of these Challenge League players that we know because we see them all the time and all these different things where most people aren't as familiar with them. So we have a little bit more info and intel on these guys, so I'm very excited. And like even with the IEM qualifiers, like the IEM America event, that it's got a good mix of players that, of course, Kerr, myself, Dulk are all very familiar with, that some of you guys aren't as familiar with. So I think that's a good spot to look for some of the players that are going to be making it into WCS. But as it gets closer to it, we get more details. We'll be talking more about WCS going into next year, and maybe have some of the players on and have their point of views for you guys to enjoy, because I'm sure they all have some very interesting thoughts on it. But Curran, any thoughts for this evening before we switch over to some shoutouts?
Not that I can think of. I think we covered just about everything.
Yeah, I think we.
But I can think of.
Yeah, there's always so much to talk about. Even if
Blizzcon, awesome, check.
Yeah. Like Peter Boyd, awesome. So a lot of good stuff coming up. Even though the season's winding down, there's still 2 tournaments to watch this weekend: Copa America and Home Story Cup. So you guys can be able to enjoy some of that. But Kurt, why don't you give your shout outs for the evening?
All right. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'm Curran. You can find me at CurranTV on Twitter. And I mostly just, if I'm doing observing stuff, I'll tweet about it. I'll tweet about random StarCraft things mostly. But yeah, and then I guess just shout out to the organizations that give me stuff to observe, like Team Gravity, IVD being a big one. And then, of course, Fear Dragon, letting me work with him on breaking out stuff. Fully appreciate that. So, yeah, go give all those people a follow, too.
Yeah. Good stuff, good stuff. Of course, thank you guys who tuned in this evening. If this is your first time watching, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you check us out here more often. We do the show every Mondays, 9 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/TheRealNanman. And check out all of the hosts at MasterDog, at CurranTV, of course myself, The Real Nan Man, and the show at Sc2upandcoming. We'll tweet about when we go live. We also tweet if we're going to be having any guests on and any sort of other esportsy related news that you guys might be interested in. But of course, just like every other end of the show, we do throw on a couple of host modes for some people. I noticed that Tempo is streaming, so I think we'll throw up Tempo's stream for you guys to watch him play the fun little new ladder maps, or old ladder maps if you guys have been around there. But that'll do it for us tonight, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.